Morning, everyone, and welcome to our Heavenly Parent Holy Community Oceania Hundoke. Today, actually being the first day of the seventh 40-day condition, and today we have a special presentation by Elise Hanson together with her husband Greg. And today is Sunday, the 10th of October, also the 5th of September in the 9th year of Chongoguk. Every day seems to be a very significant day. So let's offer a bow to our heavenly parents and true parents. Chariot, Kyombe, Haru. And let's recite our family pledge both in Korean and English. Thank you.
가정멘세 1. 천일국주인 우리 가정은 참 사랑을 중심하고 본연 땅을 찾아 본연의 창조 이사인 지산 천국과 전산 천국을 창건할 것을 맹세하나이다.
Family pledge number 1. Our family, the owner of Chongoguk, pledges to seek our original homeland and build the kingdom of God on earth and in heaven, the original ideal of creation, by centering on true love. Thank you. And I'd like to ask Matapa if she can offer the opening prayer, please.
Please join me in prayer. Our most beloved heavenly parents, our precious true parents of heaven, earth, and humankind, we come before you once again to offer this time and prayer with gratitude, heavenly parents, for your protection and your daily guidance, and most of all, love. Thank you for all your provisions, heavenly parents. We are that you provide us with also daily. Heavenly parents, thank you for this opportunity in which we can come together once again to fellowship, to hear your words of love, of truth, to inspire us, to encourage us, to motivate us. The next thing, the next task, next mission we are about to embark on. Thank you for true parents who have paved the way, heavenly parents, who is our example. Thank you for the legacy, the work that they have done. And now we are continuing with this legacy and supporting Mother at this time, who is leading the providence here on the earth. Please, heavenly parents, show us, help us to connect to her heart, and to your will through her. What we can do in this time, heavenly parents, is that we can help her to fulfill the goal and the offering that she wanted to make before you, before heaven, before true Father, when he passed, and that was for the unification of North and South Korea, and to offer this as her offering. Heavenly parents, we want to support her at this time. We want to work together at this time. So thank you for this opportunity to come together at this time, and in this on this platform, and in this prayer Hondok time, to inspire one another, encourage one another. Be with us at this time as we offer yet another session, and I pray that we could take something from it this time and use it for this coming week. Heavenly parents, thank you very much for our leaders, Reverend Utaka, Australian, New Zealand leaders, and all brothers and sisters here in Oceania. Thank you for all their effort and investment in the providence. That I come before you now to report all this, and on behalf of all brothers and sisters here this morning, in my name, Matapa Shelley of the Shelley Blessing family, I pray, Archie.
Thank you. So let's welcome Elise and Greg as they share with us this morning. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, we had a complete breakdown on the internet. Please forgive this. This is a bit similar like my life was, I suppose. So my testimony is about coming to rebirth through Mother. I believe it all started with after to Father's ascension. I felt so ashamed and blamed myself not to have fulfilled what Father asked us to do. So he couldn't even live one day in Chongiko. So on that time, on the announcement of the motto for 2014, to Mother said, a motto that we should uphold until 2020, given by true Father, parents of heaven and earth and humankind, during Hondoke, by the heavenly calendar, in the first year of Chongiko, January the 1st, 2014. And the motto was, let us become true owners of Chongiko who practice true love in resemblance to our Creator, the Heavenly Parent. And that day and at that point, I decided, feeling completely inadequate of fulfilling any conditions, that I would just offer day by day, even if it's such a disappointment to fulfill to say two things, the pledge and peace message number 5. And peace message number 5 was from the past of the people of Chongikuk. The fundamental duties and mission that every citizen of Chongikuk should understand and live by as they walk the way of heaven. And there's the 7 points until how does this verse? The countryman and woman, if not you, then who will nurture and protect this blessed families and blessed planet Earth that God has given us? Let us build the everlasting peace kingdom by attending the King of Peace in heaven and on earth, and fulfill the way of a true devoted child and a member of the family of God's sons and daughters. So, and I did fulfill that until today, maybe until now. But so I'd like to give you a bit of my background. But also I'd like to invite my parents and my grandparents from the spirit world to come and to be included in my sharing. I'm born in Vienna, capital of Austria, a Catholic country. And recently I became so proud of my history, the history and the culture of my homeland. And as Austria had a marrying policy, and with the saying, others might fight wars, but you, happy Austria, marry, because Maria Theresia, same like Queen Victoria for Austria, had 16 children and she married them all over the place. But also to Father said, Austria is the glue of Europe. And the other thing was very much Congress were conducted through music and dance and waltz, and like meaning they came together to celebrate rather than having intellectual debates. I joined in 1974 after being witnessed over many years, and rather from the spirit world, and these members had many spiritual experiences. I started my studies in architecture. At that time I met constantly our brothers and sisters, and it wasn't really my choice, architecture, but my parents' wishes and hopes for me to raise to a higher class. And so I devotedly followed and tried to fulfill that. So as I was then finally came to the end of my study, I gave in when I met the sister, and I listened to what she has to say. So that time when I heard the end message, actually, the Messiah is on ours, I had this experience as if every cell of my body was jumping for joy, and like my aunt sister said, "Oh, finally she made it." So I shared that feeling of hope immediately coming back home, and that the Messiah is on earth with my mother. She was very sick at the time, but she was happy as well. So because of her, in her youth, she wanted to become a nun, but I never understood why the priest stopped her, only reconciled. And she only reconciled with that after I was born. But according to my father, even that shouldn't have happened. And I understood that personally as being rejected. And that stayed with me most of my life. So from, but his, yeah, for him, it was more from the war experience that he just couldn't imagine to bring a new life to this horrible world. So hearing the Messiah is on earth stuck with me, and that time we called to Father Master, with no pictures. And so when my mother actually went to listen to Divine Principle, and she knew immediately what to Father is considered the Messiah, because I didn't get that point at all. So by her reaction, always stayed with me, as she said to me, hopefully he doesn't betray us like Hitler did. So significant for me was also growing up, when I grew up with my experience with my grandmother, my mother's mother. As she was 10, she died. And with her last words, really, I can't have faith anymore, because she had so much pain, couldn't take the pain anymore. And that those words really always let me wonder if that had any influence on me. And it had. But so then coming back, I always had to visit with my grandmother, with my mother and my grandmother. And I had also often this bandaging her open legs, but also she was in the wheelchair, so she would ask me to sit with her praying rosaries, formal prayers in Catholic faith. But so in my child mind, I was wondering if those rosaries would hang in heaven. In a way, useless. But also she would look at Jesus on the cross, and what her father had carved, and also on the huge picture with the face of Jesus with the crown of thorns. I still can see it in my mind. But only then I realized, actually 20 years later, what an impact it had on my life, as I associated love with suffering. And that's why I felt so moved when True Mother's memory came out, and I read it within a few days. I felt so deeply connected with True Mother because of the relationship I had with my mother. And on page 344, True Mother says, from the moment I could understand speech, my maternal grandmother told me, God is your father. Her words formed the core of my faith, and they set me on the course that I had to walk. I never looked back. I have only looked at the path ahead and never became attached to my circumstances, neither they. There was never been a moment that I didn't keep Heavenly Father with me. And I surrendered completely with a heart filled with trust in my Heavenly Father. And then on that point, I realized really the lack of foundation I had. That the True Mother says in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve talked with God directly, heard God's word with their own ears. I had had such a conversation with God from a young age. So on that point, I realized this is what Eve couldn't do. She wasn't connected with God, but True Mother did. Every moment of her life, she communicated with God and talked to God. So that was, that really changed my whole life on that point. That finally God could show me actually how I was guided by God all my life, and that God actually wanted me to be alive. So that was not had nothing to do with my father's not wanting a child. So significant also was for me how True Mother talks about during adolescence, I didn't worry about my life or losing the way. I credit this to my grandmother and mother instilling in me a deep faith in God. So the habit of living in attendance to Him. And my mother strictly guided my life of faith. There were times when I thought it difficult, wearisome, but I'm grateful now for it prepared me to blossom as the only begotten daughter of God, who one day would meet the only begotten Son. So within that atmosphere of I grew roots, unshakable faith. And I read particularly the Good Earth by Pearl S. Bach. And on that point, I read actually the books of Pearl S. Bach because of my mother's love and interest in her. So True Mother realized, this story helped me to realize that ultimately we must return to nature's embrace, and represented in that book by the Earth is human nature to cling to God's embrace. I earnestly wish to be together with God. For that reason, there were songs and novels about the love of one's hometown. So I grew from a young age that God is my Father, and naturally connected everything I write to God, and also in our communication. And I lived, I cut off entirely from the harsh secular world. I lived a chaste life as if I were a nun. I was aware that a higher power was guiding me. My path had been prepared by heaven. So I especially became aware that how my mother even she wanted to become a nun, but she couldn't give me any education how to live a religious life. So by the time before joining, when I doubted about committing myself to God, I had a spiritual experience that in the night, like a bird of praise or what, just they attacked me and they tried to kill me. So it was such a terrifying experience. But so in my desperation, I had to promise God, I commit myself, but no compromise. I just commit myself, and on that point, everything shifted, and I felt safe and secure. But also, I had to live up to my promise to God. So, on the moment, on my fulfilling my promise to my parents on the graduation ceremony of then with my parents attending, the same day I moved into the center. But meanwhile, to finally ready to work for God. So meanwhile, my father got influenced by an article in the newspaper, the first negative article about our movement, and he in his concern was going to headquarters, and he shouted at the national leader of Peter Koch at the time, and I didn't know anything about that, but until I was asked to sort out the situation with my father, and but I felt only really it's not really fair, because I fulfilled my promise to him in finishing my studies, but he would not really ask me why I made that decision. He would think that I could be just influenced. So also he worked with negative parents, but so on that point I had to leave again after having finally reached the point to join. So and if it and I really felt if I would meet members, I would be a curse to them. So and if there wasn't a brother that time who actually understood my situation, and he when he met me without me seeing him, and he asked me to come to one of those Viennese coffee places, and with pen and paper he explained to me exactly why I should join if that's my wish. So because of that, then I called Peter Koch and I asked to rejoin again, and the opportunity came up with going to England to join the international team. This was in June 1975. So I left Austria then. But that because my life was always full of fear because of my dad's unpredictable behavior. But he was the most generous person. He was so. But that stayed with me for a long time, and so until, because I felt if I'm not good enough, if I can't fulfill, then I would be asked to leave again the church. So at that point I felt so grateful. Can we have been already in Australia even, and I felt so grateful to Mrs. O'Reilly, as she really helped me to overcome that. So even in that time, when I joined also from England, and then after also I went through with the choir where I was chosen to sing to France, and we went through the communist persecution always after the talk. The national leader Van Rebirth, we ran for our lives because the communists have been after us to attack us. So, but I felt where to say about my father. I felt very grateful to my father. As he really resolved his negativity towards our movement. He, especially after my mother's death, my mother died 1 year before our blessing, 1977, and he. So he really apologized to me, and on that point, I had this when he was 85. The whole situation turned around. I suddenly saw him, the generous and beautiful being he is, and at the same time also felt that grief, having lost to develop a father-daughter relationship with him. But I have been also desperate. But my true mother gave 2 talks in Vienna, and I managed my father would come to one of them, and he was so fascinated by true mother and how beautiful she is, and how, but also that time Reverend Clark gave such a long talk, but still my father didn't make any difference. He was so impressed by all these things what Reverend Clark explained about on behalf of the fathers. So, but also at the end, actually, at that time in Austria, so we blessed our parents who accepted the blessing. And my father really wanted to be blessed with my mother, so I could give him the blessing. Also, yeah, and it's a long story because also my parents-in-law came to be blessed together in the time in Vienna also. So first, so also I included actually with the yeah, I started then to coming back to my condition, what I have been doing, and I started with True Parents Declaration. These are my true parents, the eternal King and Queen of Peace, the liberator of God's heart. They've saved me from my past. They have blessed my future, and they give me true love, forgiveness, and happiness today. I chose to receive it. My mind is awake, my heart is open wide, and from this moment I can change forever. So I would say that before I recited that. And also True Mother said to open our eyes in the morning with a grateful heart and smile. And today I'm beginning a happy today I'm beginning a happy day. And I added and I have rebirth in God's love. So in that sense, I heard also all diseases, as you say, that all diseases fall away and endorphins are produced in the body. On the 3rd of July 20, as I listened to Mother's talk in tears, this is a video I would have liked to show, but when to mother says, what I know, I would like to teach all of you so that you understand what I know and how I feel. This is my mission. And that really resurrected my heart, because how to mother wants to give us guidance and how she wants to educate us. And that's what I really felt, what I have been lacking because of the Catholic church and faith, as my mother really wanted to give me guidance, but there was, she couldn't. So I felt also when mother says in her page 293, like human beings and nature have an inseparable relationship. We can be enlightened about God's act of creation and his mystical truth through nature, which represents him only when we live it and invest in it and study it. We can feel infinite joy and love that God felt when he created the earth for us. So when we do so, we can live each day with a heart of love and gratitude. And so that, no, sorry, I had it all lined up. So so that so through mother's guidance in her book, and she says about the habit of living in attendance to God. And my mother strictly guided my life of faith. Yes, there were times when I thought it difficult and weak, but I'm grateful now, for it prepared me to blossom as the only begotten daughter. So I'd like to my last. So yeah, I'd like to finish when Mother says on page 293, human beings and nature have an inseparable relationship, but it already and we can be enlightened about God's act of creation. But only when we live in it, invest in it, and study it, we can feel the infinite joy and love that God felt when God created us. So when we do so, we can live each day with a heart of love and gratitude. And that's what I felt after, because of the way how I could never really cope with my life, more in a survival pattern always, and doing everything on pushing myself. And but then through Mother, I started to realize when she says, because of God's sorrow and grief, a courage based on my faith in God rose up within me, and I felt I could gratefully accept whatever might be asked of me. And also with Mother saying that I understood that through trauma, our body helps us to survive, and we create certain patterns. But if we can reconnect really with God, that's what religion is all about, reconnecting to God's heart, then our body has the wisdom to guide us and to help us connect it with God's answering our answering that we want to connect with God and be guided by God, and constantly asking for that guidance. And that's why we can actually experience God's heart and guidance. And something we expressed it. It only came through Mother's suffering. And now I realize that actually Mother is guiding us every day, every moment. If we ask for it, if we really connect with Mother. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elise. Did Greg want to add something, or?
Yeah, good morning. Oh.
Morning.
Can you see me?
We lost your picture, but we can hear you.
Yeah, no, we're sat outside in the car at the moment because the telephone lines went down a few days ago. So it's quite an interesting, but I appreciate Elise doing, expressing her situation from the past and how she's feeling rebirth through Mother. And and thanks for everyone supporting. And just looking forward to the rest of the day with the celebrations. So yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Elise, and thank you, Greg. They phoned up the other night saying that they had major failure in the area, the power lines down and the telephone lines down, and they couldn't do anything. But I said it was still okay just to talk, and thank you, Elise. We can catch a little bit of your life, and some of the points that I caught and stood out. I mean, like you gave the title of your talk, coming to rebirth through True Mother, and explained the sadness, the deep sadness you felt when you realized as a young girl that your dad didn't want you. And I'm sure that's very, very painful to feel and have that experience. And then you're encouraged by Mother that, when Mother, you said that as God is my Father. As soon as Mother could understand speech, her grandmother and mother were telling her that God is her Father, because she never knew her real father. But the significant thing is Mother absolutely believed that 100%, that God is her Father. And as we know, very much so, Mother's the only begotten daughter. So very much that God is her Father. The other statement that stood out is Mother said once they found out that Father was the Messiah, I hope he doesn't betray us as Hitler did. That stood out to me, just made me realize two things. Why the Austrian and German people followed Hitler. They really did respect him as a Messiah figure, and then this bitterness that they felt, Hitler betrayed them in the end. And so this someone who's potentially the Messiah, who's meant to save and unite them ended up causing a war, and many people died. But our Father truly is the Son of God, and Mother truly is the daughter of God, and they really do love us. And I was sorry for Elise that it took such a long time for your father to finally apologize. I'm sure over the years, he was trying to express love that he did have and came, but 85 years old, and to finally apologize. But at least he apologized. And the other thing that struck me was, you were saying your mother wanted to be a nun, or grandmother wanted to be a nun, and but they didn't guide you in any religious way, a life of faith. And it was a true mother that ended up guiding your life of faith, and still does. And reflecting on that too, I mean, I grew up in a Greek Orthodox, and my dad very faithful, going to church every week and a few times during the week, and his greatest joy was to live next door to the church so he could go. But I reflected on that. He never really guided me in a religious life either. I watched what he did. I went to the church, but never touched the core of my heart, with guidance. And then that's true. True parents, we get guidance every day, and especially through Reverend Yutaka and this Hundoke, we are getting wonderful guidance about how to improve our life of faith. And then the last thing that I want to mention is the thing that struck as well, which I think about many, many times, is having the heart of love and gratitude. And that was mother and father's relationship with God, truly a deep heart of love, and also a deep gratitude for life, and waking up each day. Potentially should have been waking up to each day full of joy, but waking up with the resolve that they have to liberate God, liberate the world, and liberate all of creation, so and all of humanity, so that they wake up with a sense of responsibility still to fulfill. So thank you, Elise. Thank you for sharing your testimony. Thank you, everyone. Just open it up. Thank you. Okay, bye. Yes, Doug, go ahead.
Thank you, Elise. I just want to say, I think that you spoke so very beautifully, and you really reflected the pain of Europe in so many ways through almost every word that you said. Your heart was breaking throughout it, and what you experienced in life, having come from the Catholic Church, and then Hitler, as John had spoken of, that statement that your mother said, "I hope we're not deceived by Hitler this time." After World War II, I was in the Navy, serving in the Mediterranean. Oftentimes I spent meeting German people, and although they're not Austrian, they were German, and they were young, born after World War II. But I felt their collective pain and difficulty in having to be born into a country with such a history and conflict. And they were so contrite, so searching, so sincerely trying to find their way in the midst of such a history. But the history wasn't just the recent war of World War II. It's like the past 1,500 years it's all added up. European has been a playing field of conflict so deep and so powerful between Catholicism and Protestantism and wars after that, and so many different things. And I think you addressed that, but really you addressed it at a point of transformation for the world. The last 7 years of the True Parents course from 2012 to 2020, that was ending all the pain of history, and a new beginning began in 2020. So I think, in the absence of war, there's a famous statement: in the absence of war, what do people do? They build. And I was really taken by the fact that your studies is in architecture, so you're set out on the right foot to build, and from a time where war will come to an end, and you're coming from Vienna, and Father said about Vienna that it's a place of music and dance and balls. So I hope that you and your generations to come will build many great dance halls and music opera houses and bring culture to the world, and the whole history of that evil will be forgotten. So very moved. There's other things. Thank you, Evelisa. Thank you, Elise. Okay.
Thanks, Doug. Thank you. Yes, Mrs. Arai, go ahead.
They came from England as a national messiah with 4 children. I don't know how they live in Sydney, but since they came to Melbourne, I saw how they live. Even she graduated architecture for surviving, fundraising, and cleaners. Even she does cleaners. And I think Western national messiahs are not easy in Western country. So some members say, how different national messiah and us, kind of not really respect, but they really, children sacrifice, goodbye to friends and separate grandparents, decided to come to Australia because of national messiahs. So I saw all these years, and not easy life, all of them. But finally, children grow up, 7 third grandchildren, they survive well, and still they try to do something. So anyway, I'm so grateful how they survive and how they decided to come to Australia. Even Mrs. Tanaka, she really survived well. And anyway, thank you, these national messiah who came to Australia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Arai. Thank you. Yeah, that's true. I don't know how come we didn't respect the national messiahs more in Australia. I noticed that too in other countries, that they really respected their national messiahs. It's a shame on the Australian community, not to have looked after them better. Yes, anyone else like to share? Reverend Seti, yeah, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Taka and National Messiahs. So I just the image of Elise, you're there in the back, and for some reason, what you were wearing at the time, it reminded me of Auschwitz uniform for the Jews, stripes and that. And anyway, just to hear again your story, you know, born of tragedy is our history, you know, our history of the wars and Europe, etc. But such is the same as our mother, our true mother, same, our true parents, same. And I think each of us, we can reflect back on our own family history, and there have been, you know, tragic circumstances of from whence we came. But then I reflect, you know, I worked with your son Nicholas there in the Oceania Center for civil, you know, or Rebirth there, and I just look, think at the fruit and the harvest of this time. Your beautiful children, especially young Nick, he's thriving really well in the motherland in Japan there, and I always enjoy looking at the pictures of his children, the third generation, and how well he's doing. So, and it's a different time. It's a time of gratitude and looking to the, you know, the golden possibilities of this golden age. So. Anyway, kudos to our elders for, you know, going the path, and yeah, you know, God is good all the time, and things will balance, and joy will come. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Seti. Thank you. We have a chance for one more person if they'd like to share. Yes, Suntek, go ahead.
Good morning. Yeah, I want to thank Elise for sharing, and just want to take this opportunity to thank their couple, especially Reverend Hanson came to Sydney for a few years to support working with us, especially supporting the Japanese missionary during that time. Actually, as we know, we do not have a lot of staff at the headquarters. Yeah, during that time, I think Reverend Kwan, I think spoke to Reverend Hanson, and then he volunteered to come to Sydney at that time, and supported the witnessing activities in Sydney, and helping the Japanese missionary at that time. I feel at that time was an important period. Japanese missionary, they are lacking in terms of language and also experience working in a foreign land. But Reverend Hanson's presence and support was very important to help them to overcome many things. And being at the Peace Embassy together with them, that was a great support, I think, which we do not see on a daily basis. But at the time, I could see how precious that support, and through that we could witness and reach to many people, and those people that Japanese missionary, because they only come for 1 year, so some of the guests we need to continue, and Reverend Hanson being there created continuity during that time. So some of these guests are still, we are in contact. People like Sondi's brother now studying Divine Principle, Ahmed, still we are in touch, and want to continue to connect them to DP and the blessing eventually. So it may take time, but what they have shown and what Reverend Hanson has supported, that is a very important, I feel, during that time. So I want to just say again, thank you to their couple during that time to offer and support our national project in terms of witnessing and taking care and guiding this Japanese missionary at that time. So thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you. It's that time, everyone, for us to pray. So thank you, Greg and Elise Hanson, and I'll just share the screen. And let's pray together. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day, and congratulations to all those Chombo Victor couples. Let's have a great day today, everyone.
Yeah, have a good day.
Thank you. Yeah, have a blessed day, everyone.
Really good day today.
Bye-bye.